Most people think gas stations are safest when they're empty. No crowds, no chows, just you, the lights, and the silence. But the truth is, that's exactly when the wrong people show up. Tonight, you'll hear 3 real encounters from late-night shifts. One where a man sat at the pumps without ever getting out, just watching. One where a customer asked questions that felt a little too specific to be harmless. And one where a car kept circling the station like it was waiting for something to happen. None of them ended the way they should have. If you enjoy real, unsettling stories like these, stick around and maybe keep the lights on for this one. I worked the overnight shift at a gas station just off Route 19 for about 8 months. And for most of that time, nothing ever happened. That was kind of the appeal. From midnight to 6, you'd get maybe a handful of customers, truckers, people passing through, the occasional insomniac. The rest of the time, it was just the hum of the refrigerators and those overhead lights that never quite stopped buzzing. That night felt like any other. It was sometime after 2 a.m., dead quiet, no cars on the road. I remember leaning against the counter, scrolling on my phone, when headlights pulled into the lot. I glanced up out of habit. A dark sedan, older model, maybe early 2000s, rolled in slow and stopped at pump 3. Nothing unusual about that. I went back to my phone. A minute passed, then 2. Something pulled my attention back to the window. The car was still there, engine running. No one had gotten out. I watched for a bit longer, expecting the driver to open the door or reach for the pump, but nothing happened. The headlights stayed on, aimed straight at the storefront, bright enough that I had to squint. At first, I figured they were on their phone. That happens all the time. People pull in, sit for a while, then pump gas. No big deal. But after 5 minutes, it started to feel off. I couldn't see much through the windshield because of the glare, just a silhouette in the driver's seat. Completely still. I told myself to ignore it. Not my business. As long as they weren't causing trouble. Who cares? Another few minutes passed. Still nothing. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach drop a little. The driver's door was slightly open. Not wide, just cracked, like it hadn't been shut all the way. And yet, no one was moving. I stepped a little closer to the window, trying to get a better angle. The fluorescent lights inside reflected off the glass, making it harder to see out, so I cupped my hand around my eyes. That's when the headlights shut off. It happened instantly, like someone had been waiting for me to look. The sudden darkness outside made it harder to see anything at all, but now I could make out the inside of the car a bit more clearly. The driver was turned toward me, not just looking in my direction, fully turned like their whole body was angled toward the store. Watching, I froze there for a second, still half leaning over the counter, hands against the glass like an idiot. The kind of position you don't realize is vulnerable until it's too late. Then I stepped back. I tried to play it off like I hadn't been staring. Went back to the register, picked up a receipt, pretended to read it. But my attention was completely locked on that car. Another minute went by. Then, slowly, the driver's door creaked open wider. But no one got out. It just stayed like that, open. I felt this weird pressure building in my chest, like something was about to happen, but wasn't happening yet. That waiting feeling. I reached under the counter and grabbed the store phone, not dialing anything, just holding it. Then, finally, the person stepped out. It was a man, tall, thin, hoodie up, even though it wasn't that cold. He didn't look toward the pump or the store entrance. He just stood there beside the open car door. And then, after a few seconds, he took a step away from the car. Not toward the store, just away, into the open lot. He moved slowly, like he wasn't in any rush, and stopped a few feet from the pump. Then he just stood there again, facing the store. I remember thinking how exposed everything felt. The parking lot, the glass windows, me inside under all that light. There was nowhere to hide, and he had a clear view of everything. I debated locking the doors, but that felt like it might escalate things. Like acknowledging him would somehow make it worse. So I stayed still. After what felt like forever, he started walking, straight toward the entrance. Each step was slow, deliberate, not aggressive, not casual either, just controlled. I felt my grip tighten on the phone. He reached the door and paused, hand on the handle. For a second, I thought he might not come in. Then the door chimed. The sound was way louder than usual in the silence. He stepped inside, and immediately I noticed something was wrong with the way he was moving. Not injured, just stiff, like every motion was being thought through before it happened. He didn't look at anything in the store, didn't glance at the aisles, didn't check the coolers. He walked straight up to the counter. Up close, I could see his face under the hood. Pale, expressionless. His eyes looked tired, but not in a normal way. More like they hadn't focused on anything in a while. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. Then he asked, "How long have you been here tonight?" The question caught me off guard. Since midnight." He nodded slightly, like that answer mattered. Then he asked, "Has anyone else come through? Like in the last hour?" I hesitated. "Just a couple people earlier." He stared at me for a moment, like he was trying to decide if I was telling the truth. Then he leaned in just a little and said, "Did you see anyone walk behind the building?" My stomach dropped. "No," I said, probably too quickly. Another pause. Then out of nowhere he smiled. It didn't match his face at all. "All right," he said. "Good." He turned and walked out. Just like that. I stood there, still holding the phone, listening to the door chime as it closed behind him. I waited a few seconds, then moved back to the window. The car was still there. Driver's door still open, but he wasn't anywhere in sight. I kept watching, expecting him to come back into view, maybe circle around or head to the pumps. Nothing. Then, maybe 30 seconds later, the car door slammed shut. I flinched. The engine started up immediately after, and then the car pulled out of the lot, headlights still off until it reached the road. I didn't see where it went after that. About 10 minutes later, I got a call on the store phone. It was a local number I didn't recognize. I answered, thinking it might be a customer asking about hours or something. There was a pause on the line, then a voice, quiet, controlled. "Did he ask you about me?" My chest tightened. I didn't say anything. The voice continued, "It's fine if you told him. I just need to know what you said." I hung up. A few minutes after that, I locked the doors. I never found out who either of them were. But for the rest of that shift, I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was supposed to happen that night didn't. I picked up extra shifts at a gas station off I-75 during my last year of college. It wasn't a career move or anything. I just needed the money, and overnight paid a little more. Plus, most nights were dead. I could study, watch videos, do whatever as long as I rang people up when they came in. That's what I was doing around 1:30 in the morning, half paying attention to a lecture on my laptop when the door chimed. I looked up, expecting the usual. Truck driver, maybe someone grabbing snacks for the road. Instead, it was a woman. That wasn't unusual by itself, but something about her felt out of place immediately. She was dressed normal, I guess. Jeans, light jacket, mid-30s maybe, but she walked in like she already knew the layout of the store. Not glancing around, not hesitating, just straight to the counter. "Hey," I said. She didn't respond right away. She was looking at me, but not in a friendly way, more like she was studying me. Then she said, "You're here alone tonight?" It wasn't what she asked. It was how fast she asked it. No small talk, no build-up. "Yeah," I said before I could think better of it. Then I added, my manager's in the back." That was a lie. There was no one else there. She nodded slowly, like she expected that answer. "What time does he leave?" I felt this small shift in my stomach. "He's here all night." Another nod. She glanced briefly over my shoulder toward the hallway that led to the storage room. Then her eyes came back to me. "What time do you usually lock the doors?" "We don't. We're 24 hours. She smiled a little at that. Not surprised, more like that confirmed something. Then she asked, "Do you ever go outside? Like to clean the pumps or take out trash?" At that point, I knew something wasn't right. People don't ask questions like that unless they're trying to figure something out. "I just stay up here," I said. She tilted her head slightly. "All night?" "Yeah." There was a pause. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. For a second, I thought she might be about to pay for something, but she hadn't grabbed anything. Instead, she tapped the screen a couple times and turned it toward me. It was a photo, a picture of the front of the gas station. Not a stock image, not something from Google. It was taken from across the street. At night, lights on, same angle as the view outside. My stomach dropped. "When was this taken?" I asked before I could stop myself. She didn't answer. Instead, she zoomed in slightly. "You see that?" she said, pointing at the screen. It took me a second to realize what she meant. There was a figure behind the counter. Me, wearing the same hoodie I had on right now. I felt this wave of confusion hit me. "That's right now." She locked eyes with me again. "No," she said. "That was last week." I didn't know what to say to that, because I hadn't worked last week. I'd been out of town visiting my parents. "I think you got the wrong. You shouldn't lie," she cut in, calm but firm. The way she said it made my chest tighten. "I'm not. You work Thursdays," she continued. "You leave around 7 a.m. You take the side road instead of the main intersection. Less traffic." I just stared at her. Every instinct I had was telling me to shut down the conversation, but I couldn't. It was like I was stuck trying to understand how she knew any of that. "Who are you?" I asked. She ignored the question. Instead, she leaned in slightly and lowered her voice. "Has anyone come in tonight asking about me?" The question hit me in a weird way, because suddenly I thought back to something I hadn't paid much attention to earlier. A guy who had come in maybe an hour before. Didn't buy anything, just looked around for a minute and left. At the time, I didn't think twice about it. Now, it felt different. "I don't think so," I said. "You don't think so?" she repeated. Her tone wasn't mocking, it was analytical, like she was testing how confident I sounded. Then she straightened up and slipped her phone back in her pocket. "Okay," she said, and for a second, I thought that was it, that she'd leave. But then she asked one more question. "Do you ever lock that back door?" I felt a chill run through me. "What back door?" She held my gaze for a moment longer. Then, slowly, she smiled. "Right," she said, and turned to leave. The door chimed as she walked out. I stood there, completely still, trying to process what had just happened. After a few seconds, I moved toward the window. She wasn't walking to a car. She was just standing there, on the sidewalk, looking out toward the road, like she was waiting. I watched her for maybe a minute. Then headlights appeared in the distance. A car approached, slowed slightly as it passed the station, and kept going. She didn't react. Another car came a few minutes later. Same thing. Then, finally, a third vehicle approached. This one slowed down more noticeably, and as it did, she stepped closer to the edge of the lot. Not waving, not signaling, just standing there. The car came to a near stop, and then drove off again. She stayed where she was. After that, I lost sight of her for a second when I turned to grab the phone. I don't even know why. I just felt like I should have it in my hand. When I looked back, she was gone. No car leaving. No footsteps. Nothing. Just gone. I locked the doors after that. About 20 minutes later, I heard something from the back. A dull, metallic sound, like a door shifting slightly. I froze, because we didn't have a back door. At least, not one employee's used. There was an old emergency exit in the storage room, but it had been sealed shut years ago. The handle didn't even turn. I grabbed the small flashlight we kept under the counter and walked slowly toward the hallway. Every step felt louder than it should have. The store was completely silent again. When I reached the storage room, I hesitated. Then I pushed the door open. Nothing looked out of place at first. Shelves, boxes, the old freezer unit. Then I saw it, the emergency exit door. It wasn't open, but it wasn't closed all the way either. There was a small gap, just enough to let cold air slip through. And the handle was slightly turned, like someone had just tried it, or had. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. And that's when I noticed something on the floor, right by the door. A phone. I stared at it for a second before picking it up. The screen was still on. Camera app open. And the last photo taken was me, standing behind the counter, from inside the store. I wasn't even supposed to be working that night. I had swapped shifts with a coworker because he said he had something important, which, knowing him, probably meant a date or a party. I didn't mind. Extra hours, extra money. The only downside was the timing. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 7 a.m., and the station I worked at sat just off a long stretch of highway with nothing around it for miles. No neighborhoods, no other businesses. Just road, trees, and us. By around 3 a.m., the traffic had completely died. That's normal, but there's a point in the night where it stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling cut off. Like if something happened, no one would know for hours. I was sitting behind the counter, half awake, when I noticed headlights pass by out on the road. Again, normal, except they slowed down. Not a full stop, just enough that it caught my attention. I watched through the window as the car continued past the station, then disappeared down the road. I didn't think much of it, until a minute later, the same headlights came back the other direction. This time, the car slowed even more as it approached the entrance. For a second, I thought they were going to turn in, but they didn't. They just kept going. I remember frowning a little, but then I shrugged it off. People miss turns all the time. A few minutes passed, then the headlights came back again. Same car, same slow approach, same hesitation, and again, it kept going. That's when it started to feel intentional. I stood up and moved closer to the window, watching as the car disappeared for the third time. The road out there was long and straight. No intersections nearby where someone could easily turn around quickly, which meant they were going out of their way to come back. That thought stuck with me. When the car returned a fourth time, it finally turned into the lot. Relief hit me for a second. Like, okay, they're just indecisive or lost. That feeling didn't last long. The car didn't pull up to a pump. It didn't park near the entrance. It just rolled slowly through the lot and stopped near the far edge, facing the building. Engine running, lights on. I waited for someone to get out. No one did. I checked the clock. 3:17 a.m. I told myself to give it a minute. People sit in their cars all the time. But after a couple minutes, nothing changed. No door opening. No movement inside. Just the engine idling. I felt that same creeping tension as in situations you don't fully understand yet. I debated whether I should go out there. Technically, I wasn't supposed to confront anyone unless they came inside. So I stayed put. After maybe 5 minutes, the car started moving again, but not toward the exit. It began slowly circling the pumps. 1, then 2, then 3. Just looping around the station at a crawl. My chest tightened. There was no reason to do that. On the 4th loop, the car passed directly in front of the entrance. As it did, I got a clear look inside. Driver only. A man. Middle-aged, maybe. Hard to tell in the lighting. But what stood out wasn't how he looked. It was what he was doing. He wasn't looking at the road. He was looking at me. His head was turned fully toward the store as he drove past, eyes locked on the window. On me. And he didn't look away. Not even when the car started to drift slightly out of its path. He just kept staring. The car corrected itself at the last second and continued the loop. I stepped back from the window instinctively. My heart was pounding now. On the next pass, I stayed farther from the glass, watching from an angle. The car slowed again as it came around. Then, without warning, it stopped, right in front of the entrance. Engine running, lights flooding the store. I couldn't see his face clearly anymore because of the glare, just the outline of him sitting there. still, watching. Seconds stretched out, then a minute, then another. I realized I was holding my breath. Finally, I moved. I reached under the counter and hit the switch that locked the doors. The loud click echoed more than it should have. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's side door opened. He stepped out, slowly. He didn't look around a lot, didn't stretch or check his phone. He just stood there, facing the store. Then he started walking, straight toward the entrance. Every step felt deliberate, measured, like he wasn't unsure of anything. I backed up a little, trying to keep distance between me and the door. When he reached it, he grabbed the handle and pulled. It didn't open. He paused, then pulled again, harder. Still nothing. That's when he finally looked down at the lock, then back up at me, and smiled. It wasn't wide or exaggerated, just small, knowing. He leaned slightly closer to the glass, and even through the reflection and glare, I could see his lips move. I couldn't hear him, obviously, but I could read it. Good. My stomach dropped. He let go of the handle and stepped back. For a second, I thought he might leave. Instead, he walked over to his car, reached inside, and turned the headlights off. The entire lot went dark. The only light now was from inside the store, spilling out through the windows, making me completely visible, and him almost impossible to see. I lost track of where he was for a few seconds. That was the worst part, not seeing him. I moved along the counter, trying to keep an angle on the door, but the reflections made it hard. Then, a loud knock, right on the glass. I flinched hard enough that I actually stumbled back. He was right there again, closer than before, smiling the same way. Another knock, slower this time, deliberate. I didn't move, didn't say anything. We just stood there like that, staring at each other through the glass. Then, after what felt like forever, he leaned in one last time and mouthed something else. Next time, he turned, walked back to his car, and got in. A second later, the engine revved. The headlights snapped back on, and he drove out of the lot without another loop. Just gone. I didn't unlock the doors for the rest of the night. Around 5:30 a.m., my coworker, the one I had swapped with, called me. I almost didn't answer. When I did, the first thing he said was, "Hey, did anyone come by asking for me?" My grip tightened on the phone. "What do you mean?" There was a pause. Then he said, "I don't know, some guy showed up at my apartment earlier. Said he was looking for someone who works nights at the station." A cold feeling settled in my chest. "What did he look like?" Another pause. Then, "I don't know. I didn't open the door." I didn't tell him what happened, but I did ask one thing. "Why'd you switch shifts with me tonight?" He hesitated, then said, "I didn't switch with you. You texted me asking to take it, remember?" I felt my stomach drop, because I never sent that text.